Okay, dear students, we have a serious problem. Well, it's been long anticipated, and turns out we're getting through it so far. Yeah, okay. So let's start on slide 23. It's called the Baby Boomer Generation Retirement Time Bomb. Sounds pretty dire, doesn't it? Well, here's the problem. We baby boomers make up a huge percentage of the uh, population, demographic profile, as it's sometimes called. It was the big bulge in the population. And we're retiring now. Between 1940 and 2010, the average lifespan has increased by about 15 years, while the average age for Social Security increased only 2 years, as we saw in the previous presentation. In 1940, there were very few retirees per worker. Most workers, particularly men, simply didn't live to 65. There were a whole lot of smoking going on and a lot of eating of fat and grease and salt and sugar. And yeah, well, now people are living much longer. Not only do most workers reach retirement, the retirement lasts an average of 16 to 20 years. Sounds like a test question from the free. Yeah. Every day for the next 10 years, 10,000 people will have their 65th birthday. Pretty amazing. And as we saw in the very first slide, the next generation, the Gen Xers as they're called, was a bit of a baby bust. So what happened? When Social Security was created in the late 1930s, there were about 30 workers for every one retiree, a 30-to-1 ratio. By 2010, there were about 3 workers for every retiree, a 3-to-1 ratio. And by 2050, we expect to see 1.5 workers for every one retiree. Huh? Wait a minute. How did we manage to go from 30 workers per retiree down to 3 workers per retiree without significant economic upheaval? Well, when you think about the last, say, 70, 80 years or so, it actually makes sense. The 1950s, when America, of course, was great with all the segregation and when Daddy went to work and fondled the secretary, and Mommy stayed home and took Valium and beat the children. That was no, that's not what happened. Hey, just take a look at an old rerun of Leave It to Beaver or the Donna Reed show. No, 2 worker families are now the norm. Women are taking more active role in the workplace. In fact, they're taking over. Thankfully, it's about time. Men have been screwing things up for 4,000 years. Let's let the women screw things up. Now, so two worker families have become the norm. So that's a real big jump from 30-to-1 down to 15-to-1 right there. Boom. Plus, productivity gains have been substantial. We don't think about times when you didn't have a communicating device and a word processor and a spreadsheet. That just, no, people are far more productive than they used to. But more importantly, as the number of retirees grew, the number of children per worker diminished. Huh? Well, we weren't called the baby boom for nothing. I mean, 4, 5, 6 kids was de rigueur. If you only had 1 or 2 kids, there was something suspicious about your family. Probably communist sympathizers, because it was your duty to have as many children as you could to fight those the Cold War mentality. See, what happened? The ratio of workers to dependents has stayed roughly the same. The difference is that the dependents have shifted from the children to the elderly. So instead of a whole lot of niños corren sobre la casa, running around the house, you've got a whole lot of abuelitos and abuelitas. So yeah, that's how we've managed to go from 30 workers per retiree down to 3 workers per retiree. The problem is twofold. Baby boomers have not saved enough for their retirement. Well, some have, some haven't, so it's a mixed bag. But I wish I had saved this interview. It was an audio interview from one of those shows about, financing your life. And every time I say it, I sound like I'm sing-songing. But this guy said, unless a big bucket of cash falls out of the sky, I'm going to be working until I die. So I know that sounds like he said it very flatly, very seriously too, because it was a serious situation for him. Also, there will not be enough workers to service the economy, resulting in labor shortages. Yeah, remember 76 million baby boomers retiring, 46 million Gen Xers coming up to replace them? Let alone provide the health care and other services that the retirees will demand. Recall that the average person between ages 60 and 70 uses more medical resources than they did between 0 and 59. And as we said, 1/3 of all Medicare dollars are spent in the last year of life. So we're going to need more workers. And how did the United States usually deal with that? We've welcomed immigrants. How's that going on? Yeah, it's a political football now. They're eating the pets. I'm sorry, no, that's totally bogus. Totally bogus. So what are some possible solutions? Financial solutions. Aggressive savings by boomers and Gen Xers. Everyone over 50 should be socking away the new maximum limits to their 401ks, their Roth IRAs. But it's happening for some people, not everyone, especially people whose kids are going to college and they sacrifice themselves. Put your oxygen mask on first before the children's. And so that's an issue. And the Congress understands this, and they're going to, my understanding, I'm not sure if it's happened yet or not, I was upping the catch-up allowance, raising the catch-up allowance for people. It starts at 50, but then at 60, they were going to make it even bigger. I think. I don't know if it happened or if it's just being talked about. My apologies, I forget. I read the article some time ago. Another way is to raise Social Security taxes. Oh, well, that gets the wealthy really upset because right now, if you make over $168,600 in the year 2024, you no longer pay Social Security taxes. Right, and so when George Bush, the younger, in 2005 wanted to fix Social Security, one of the first things people said, well, you can just raise the limit on the wealthy people. And he didn't like that. He didn't want to hear that one. Older people have traditionally more sway with politicians. And so they're going to say, we need you to pay us and we're going to vote you out if you don't. But the problem is it's a recipe for intergenerational warfare. Taxes would essentially have to double from a little less than 8% to a little less than 16%. Right, if we go from 3 workers down to 1.5 workers. So probably some Social Security taxes are going to be raised. We'll see. Lowering the benefits. Well, people will tell you that Social Security is going bankrupt. No, Social Security is not going bankrupt. What's going to happen is they will deplete a trust fund. And when that happens, they will no longer be able to pay out all the benefits that have been promised. It's about, they bandy about different numbers, 2033, 2032, 75%, 77%. Either way, it's not going bankrupt. No. Medicare is going bankrupt. But that's a whole different issue. Remember Chapter 9, the whole healthcare system is bringing us down. And that's the younger generations. You're going to have to deal with that. So, again, this is another recipe for intergenerational welfare. Bush in 2005, their proposal would have reduced benefits by up to 49% for many workers over the next several decades. It would have hit the middle class the hardest. Surprise, right? So that didn't go anywhere. He had thought he had a mandate to do this. He didn't win by much in 2004. He actually lost the popular vote in 2000, but the war made him more popular. And he went nowhere. He ran into a buzzsaw. How about investing Social Security in the stock market? Again, another idea that Bush wanted to do, privatize, basically, parts of Social Security. Well, you know me. I'm a big fan of stocks for the long term. But the problem with this, and there's a big problem, is that it would be very, very costly because you have to pay the people you promised, the baby boomers, and now some of the Gen Xers as they approach their retirement. You have to pay them while you're taking the money that the younger folks are uh, uh, paying into the system and putting it in the stock market and the like. And if what and as we've talked about in investing, there's going to be some great winners and some great losers too. So then there was a talk of, well, it'll be managed. Well, who's going to manage it? If not the individual participant, like a 401k, who's going to manage it? Well, obviously, some of the firms on Wall Street's mouths were watering, like, we'll do it for a fee. Yeah, and then 2008 came along, and people realized, no, the stock market is very risky, folks. You have to be prepared to lose, and some people are just not, they think they are until they've lost 20, 30, 40%. Then you know what they say. Oh, is it too late to get out? Yeah, now's not the time to get, oh my goodness. Anyway, so this one isn't really going to go anywhere. However, the problem is the financial solutions alone aren't going to work because an economy consists of both supply and demand. Okay? Let's assume that boomers have saved enough for their retirement. In other words, there's enough demand, right? Okay? Everybody's got enough money. If there's not enough goods and services to service the demand, in other words, there's insufficient supply, there's not enough people to do the work to supply the goods and services that are demanding, the result will be large-scale inflation of goods and services or large-scale deflation of financial assets, or both. Huh? What? What are you talking about, Payano? Look, slide 31. You got to think there's millions of people in our economy, and you can't. We tend to think of just of ourselves, but think of everybody. If I save more than everyone else, then I can retire without a problem, right? I got plenty of money. There's plenty of goods and services to supply my needs. But if everyone saves more, then everyone will want the same goods and services that the elderly are requiring. Everyone will be bidding up the price of healthcare, leisure, retirement housing, etc. Or everyone will have to accept lower prices for our saved financial assets since everyone will be trying, when we say everyone, we mean retirees, I should say, would be trying to sell them at the same time to pay for those same goods and services. Now, most likely, both actions will occur somewhat, but what was predicted by some very smart people was that this was going to crash the market when the boomers started selling their stocks. It hasn't. Even though they have been net sellers, because obviously they need the money now. It's time to the distribution phase. We're going to take a look at it in our next in a presentation in this chapter, taking the money out. Why? Well, the younger generations, the millennials, the Gen Z, what they're calling the new ones, the new generations coming up. They have been far more savvy when it comes to investing, far more aware of the need to start early, which is cool. I want to attribute it to our classes at Southwestern Community College, and maybe we've done a little bit to help the cause. But in general, in the culture, there's far more understanding that, yes, we do have to save. And of course, some of it is attributed to the video gamation of investing, which is not necessarily in the best interest of the investors, speculators, in my humble opinion. And we discuss that in Business 123, Introduction to Investments. Folks, Robinhood is not free, okay? Just get that in your head. If you want to learn how, contact me or take Business 123. It is not free. But anyway, it's a good thing, I think. But still, we have to do more than just have people save money. Okay, so what are some of the economic choices for solutions? In slide 32, we can increase productivity. Well, we are on the verge. The hype is there, but there's going to be some major changes. We're on the verge of some incredible productivity gains soon. Yes, a lot of students are not even bothering to do the assignments. They're having some artificial intelligence program do it for them. And, we professors just shake our heads because sometimes it's so easy to tell that this is not a human that did this. but they're only going to get better and until what happens. Anyway, I'm diverging. My apologies. It's on my mind now, but it's the same issue. Also, biotechnology is going to really explode soon. I know it is. It's the same problem as increasing Social Security taxes. You have to share the increased productivity with people who are doing the work, the post-boomers. It will help this economy substantially, but not necessarily the goods and services that retirees need. It's definitely going to help healthcare, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. But what about leisure activities? Golf, golfing and cruises and the like. So that's something that's coming down the pike. We'll see the changes in a few years. We'll be able to separate the hype from the reality of artificial intelligence. But driverless cars, robots, healthcare that determines that you're sick before you even know it. Yeah, well, let's hope. Let's hope for good things, because it's going to create some bad things too, especially if the robots start shooting us. But the increased developing world trade, the next engine of world economic growth, in my humble opinion, is the developing world. That's where the growth is in the population. That's where the growth in the economy. But retirement goods and services are not easily traded across the globe. How do you trade golf membership across the globe? Well, you get the people to emigrate, and this is a future solution. But healthcare, well, maybe next time you log on and see your doctor, that doctor might be in the Philippines or in India or in Mexico. Who knows, right? So this is definitely going to help the world economy and our economy too, assuming we don't all of a sudden decide that nobody who's not a white male is in charge. I'm sorry. There's a lot. The election is weighing on my mind. Assuming that we believe that everyone is human and everyone deserves respect, and they're not eating the dogs or the cats. Anyway, remember the surgery vacations? A lot of people are already. I know very many people who go down to Mexico to have their teeth worked on. A lot of the Canadians do that, literally. They have health care that's socialized. The health Medicare for all. The folks who want to get a socialized national health care system in the United States, they call it Medicare for all to market it. But they have a national health system. But it doesn't apply to dental, and they're working on that. They're talking about that, the Canadians. So we met several Canadians in Puerto Vallarta who fly down to Mexico, pay for their hotel, get their dental work done there, and then fly back. So they basically have a vacation to get their dental work, and it costs about the same as if they had it done in Canada. So that's going to happen, and it's already happening. And then allocating more resources to healthcare is going to be one of the solutions, because there's going to be just a need because remember, between ages 60 and 70, you use more healthcare resources than you did from 0 to 59. How about demographic solutions? Because this is all about demographics, the population. Increased immigration. Well, we already mentioned that, and it's a political football right now, especially if they're eating cats and dogs, people's pets, which they're not doing. Ever visited a nursing home or an assisted living facility? Yeah, to maintain the same ratio of workers to retirees, we would need approximately 85 million immigrants by 2050. You think that's going to happen? I don't know. It depends on the election. How about getting rid of all us old folks? Increased retiree emigration. This is happening. We've already talked about it. Many people are thinking, I could live a better life abroad. Costa Rica, anyone? But again, the numbers are mind-boggling. 120,000 retirees leaving each month for the next 30 years. Maybe actually about 25 by now, because we're almost at 2025. Years would keep the above ratio intact. The above two scenarios will help somewhat, but not significantly. As I said, I've met many people in Mexico living off their Social Security. They didn't plan. They didn't put money away in that 401k. And so, they can live a much better life dollar strong. They get their money electronically sent to them. Yeah. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to fix it? Well, here's how we're going to do it. Raising the retirement age. To maintain the current ratio of workers to retirees, we would need to raise the accepted retirement age to 72 or 73 by the year 2030. This will happen. In fact, it's already happening. Retirees are returning to the workforce. Their health is good. They want to be productive. Businesses are accommodating older workers, fewer hours, more flexible work schedules. I have a very good friend who couldn't wait to retire. She was counting the days. She's very powerful, emergency room nurse, these are people who deal with stress all the time. She loved her job. That wasn't the issue. She hated her boss and the administration that she was in. And I said to her, because we ride bikes together, because she already had booked her. She was already going to ride her bike through New Hampshire for the fall foliage, and then she was going to go to Bali, and she had all these things ready. And I said, 6 months, a year at the most, you're going to get a call, and they're going to offer you some decent money, no, administrative tasks. You just do your job, and you're going to say, this looks pretty darn good. And she said, you don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. There's no way I'm coming back. And sure enough, it was 6 months almost to the day that she got the phone call saying, we really could use you to fill in a few hours. You wouldn't have to worry about any administrative tasks. You just do your job. And she said, I heard your words in my ears like a bell. And sure enough, now she doesn't work very many hours, but she just keeps her fingers, keeps her nursing skills up to date and the like. I'm the same way. I retired from full-time teaching. No more committee work. No more program review, curriculum instruction committee, which is kind of like going to the dentist without Novocaine. I get to teach, and that's my job, and I absolutely adore it. I have another friend who's a really high-powered engineer, and he retired about 3 or 4 times. He retired from Qualcomm, didn't have to work anymore. He one of the people who had the stock options and the like. But he's bored. So he went back to work at another place just a few hours, and once they realize how powerful it is, they start loading more work on him, and he retires again, or quits, basically. And then it happened again, and I think it happened 2 or maybe not 3 times, probably 2 times. After which he said, that's it, no more. So now he has a little business fixing appliances. Yeah. And he works when he wants to. So businesses are accommodating older workers. The largest percentage growth of individuals starting businesses are people over 60. And you're now hearing politicians saying that we would need to raise the retirement age. Just a few years ago, if a politician said that, they would have been lynched. Old people with their canes would have come hitting them over the head. No. I'm teasing, but seriously. You now hear people saying we need to raise the retirement age. But it's happening. And it's happening, or I should say, without the help of, or maybe without the politicians getting involved. Just because people don't want to. And some people, their health isn't very good. And obviously, everyone's different. Some people, if you work in a very physical job, my brother-in-law is a phenomenal contractor, but he just can't do the things he used to do. He doesn't get up on the roof anymore. He has to hire somebody to do that, but he still works. Not full time, but he still does jobs. His work is phenomenal. He's well sought after, and so yeah, we're changing. All right, I can talk about this a long time. My apologies if I'm boring you, but it's so serious. It's so serious. You young folks, you're going to be working into your 70s and 80s. You're going to be living into your 120, 130. Supposedly, the first person to live to 150 has already been born. Other experts are saying, no, that's not going to happen. But we don't know. As I said, the biotech world is going to change the world in ways that we can't even imagine yet. So I'm very optimistic about the next 20, 30 years. If we don't blow ourselves up, die in our own waste, all the other things that could happen. So, the baby boom generation retirement time bomb, we will solve this problem. We have faced serious problems before. The American economy is extremely resilient. We are very resourceful. We're not so good at planning, though. The Europeans are great at planning, but then they don't actually do anything. The Americans are jumping up and down. Come on, you got to do something. The Europeans say, no, we're still planning. But once we are confronted with an issue, once we have marshaled our, not only our resources, but also the motivation to get it done, we are unstoppable. A combination of some of or all the possible previous possible solutions will be implemented with or without formal planning. Although we Americans are very resilient, we tend to be horrible at planning. We will indeed be living in interesting times. Are you familiar with the alleged ancient Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times? It isn't real, but it sure, isn't really a Chinese curse, but it is cool. May you live in interesting times. And then when they asked the Chinese about this, the Chinese said, no, that's not a curse. We don't know what that is. So very interesting, but it's still used a lot, and it's very apropos. These are very interesting times, and scary. I think very scary times. The rise of authoritarianism around the world, including the United States. But I'm optimistic, and I'm old. Usually, as you get old, you become more and more pessimistic and bitter. Slide 36. The nature of retirement will change. Expect on living much longer than you ever thought you would. Yippee! Hooray! Expect on working much longer than you ever thought you would. Boo! Start saving now. Grumble, bitch, gripe. Yeah. So, dear students, we're ready for the final chapter, the final presentation, which is in regard to the final chapter of life, estate planning, preparing for our ultimate demise. So we'll see you next presentation when we discuss estate planning. Thank you so very much for being in our class. As always, we are always very, very, very proud of you. And we're almost at the end, dear students.